Mr. Ray Treviño, welcome to the Cutting Edge podcast here with Vasili Borisov. Glad to have you. Thank you for being in our town, which recently you told me you love so much.
I love Houston.
Good.
Houston is the mecca of the oil and gas industry. I mean, West Texas is where we produce, and North Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas is where the large families are from, for the most part. And then Houston is where all the oil comes to or comes out of for the most part. And of course, they are building that larger port down there in Corpus, but hey, it's all here in Houston.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like there's like a little Bermuda Triangle between like the one of the greatest onshore drilling regions, which is Midland, right?
Hmm.
Permian. And then you've got one of the biggest offshore drilling regions, which is the Gulf of
America.
you fill in the spot.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And then you got Houston in the
Yeah.
middle,
Yeah.
right? So, no, man, glad to have you. I think you have a really interesting story. I've been definitely, keeping up with some of your podcasts, and we have a very good mutual network of friends that in this space. So, man, I'd just like to know more about you. I think we always see you doing a great job interviewing others and getting those stories out, but like let's fit, you're not a mystery, but we definitely want to get to know more about Mr. Ray. So, man, tell me, like, where you come from, where you were born, maybe, what inspired you to get into oil gas space. I know you have much respect for your father and you talk about him. So let me know, man.
Well, Vasili, first of all, it's great to meet you here as the day that we record. It's been real fun. We had a chance to go to the gun range a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
Had a good talk with some other big people in the industry today,
Definitely.
and so to be sitting here right now and for you to tell me right before we start recording, he goes, "Hey, we're just going to talk about you,"
I know you love that.
and I go, "Oh my gosh, like." I don't like doing that. And
Right.
now I know how, to all my listeners of the Crude Truth, which that's the name of my podcast, the Crude Truth.
Yes, sir.
I know how you all feel now. And I want to say thank you all so much for that feeling and actually just opening it up because wow, I feel like Ricky Bobby right now with like I don't know what to do with my hands. Vasili, I feel like, after we've been talking today, we've got a little bit of a somewhat of a similar like story.
Yeah.
Only I'm not from Russia, okay?
Hey,
And
Eastern Bloc.
yeah, I know, and you hide that accent real well sometimes.
Well, I mean, I think they say like if you come, well, let's say to the States or another country and you're not in your teens yet,
Yeah.
you usually tend to not have an accent.
Okay.
And it's kind of true because I have friends that like moved here when they were like 14 or they're going to high school. It's very almost not noticeable, but something's there. But
Okay.
I'm a Texan before anything. I
Amen.
don't. The last podcast I was having with Colin McClellan, shout out to Digital Wildcatters. He was telling me because he's from Midland. They say Midland over Moscow. But anyway, so yeah, no. Don't put it back on me, man. Let me
Oh,
know where you're from.
you caught that, huh?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
know where you're from.
Well, Vasili, I'm from Texas, born and raised in Fort Worth. I was born downtown Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Grew up there in what's now known as the mid cities, and back in the late '80s, early '90s, you just said Fort Worth because you knew Fort Worth, you knew Dallas. You didn't know South Lake, West Lake, Keller, North Richland Hills. You didn't know about that. You just knew the
Right.
two cities in between, and hence the name mid cities.
Hmm.
Um, very very blessed. I have two great brothers that are both younger than me. Both are smarter than me. Um, Probably I won't say it, but they're almost as athletic as me.
Uh-oh.
They might be.
So it's three of y'all.
Yeah, three boys. Yeah.
Are they in the oil and gas space?
They've all been, one of them is currently in it, and the other one is actually he got an opportunity to be a partner in Alaska for a giant hunting and fishing lodge.
Oh,
And, he went up there and, next thing you know, I kinda figured he'd be up there just to help put it together.
okay.
Ah, a buddy of mine goes, "Oh, he's not coming back." And sure
Okay.
enough, he moved the whole family up there, so they're up there, and, I know a lot of the companies are all always up there going, "Hey, you wanna come work for us?" He's like, "No, I'm good." And then my youngest brother actually, he's part of our company, but right now he actually got a great opportunity with, Champion X there in West
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
He's a chemical engineer major, actually, he did go to school at University of Houston.
Oh, okay. My dad was that's how we moved here. Was my dad was a professor at U of H,
Oh,
and so but, so where did you go to school?
I got my undergrad at North Texas. They're
Okay.
the Mean Green.
The Mean Green,
Yeah,
baby.
and I always tell people I shoved a 4-year degree into 6, but no, so I got my under degree there, and then I actually went into the finance industry for a few years.
Hmm,
But our backstory in oil and gas actually starts in the mid '80s.
okay,
My father is a software engineer by
okay.
trade. And what he did was actually ended up partnering up with several of the big families in Fort Worth and started writing their custom software for their accounting departments.
I see.
So you figure the PC was invented in somewhere or well, became mass production and all that somewhere between 78 and 79.
Okay.
And oil and gas, as we've talked about today, is always trying to find the latest and greatest technologies, right?
Right.
So
But to implement it, it's sometimes not as quick as some other
right.
industries.
Well, it's also, as we discussed, it is old. It's old school. Like,
Right, right, right.
and we get that a lot, well, my dad did it this way, my grandpa did it this way, so we're gonna do it that way, right?
Which is understandable.
It's totally understandable. Well, the PC
Mm,
changed the way a lot of oil and gas companies just brought their work in-house, right? You got rid of paperwork. So he wrote custom software there, basically from late 1984, 85, all the way through almost 2015 of all.
wow.
And he was definitely slowing down on that by 2015, but basically he wrote this custom software and it's all the accounting software. So
Okay.
as he's writing this accounting software, he begins to kind of pick up a little bits and pieces about why they had so many people in accounting and why they paid them so much and why they wanted it in house and how much money the oil and gas company and those families saved every year just by drilling oil and gas wells. And, this is 1989 by now. And basically, he was able to go out to the oil field, and this one family, like stereotypical at that time, is like, well, this is our land, this is our ranch, these are our wells that we drilled and our minerals. And so he's like, well, I guess it's not for everybody. And
Right.
right, because I don't have a ranch, I don't have minerals. And
Yeah.
but they had really gotten a good relationship, and they're like, "Oh, no, Ray," and my dad's name is Ray also. He goes, "No, actually, a lot of people drill oil wells with other people," and so they pointed him in the right direction.
Okay.
And so he started investing in oil and gas just as a investor, nothing more, nothing less.
Wow.
Pick up a little bit here, a little bit there, and he really did it for the tax deductions. That is the only reason why.
Really?
When you figure your 1990 custom software, you're making a good check yourself. And
Right.
when you can write that off against your capital gains, your W-2 income, any ancillary income that you made, it's a no-brainer.
And
Well,
did they appreciate the software that he created that he then potentially helped them use to better keep track of their books and accounting and data? Because, now especially, but I'm sure even back then, keeping track of numbers and data and analytics and then how those numbers work and where there's margins and how you can save money. That's how he kind of
oh, he approaches it with a fine-tooth comb.
I
Yes,
bet. I bet.
absolutely, and that's what made it so cool, especially with the custom software back in the day, that they might have the head of accounting be, "Hey, can we get this? So, because we wanna find out what this number is gonna
Right,
be."
right.
And so he'd go back in behind the code and do the code, do the math,
Mhm.
and then put that button out there, right? And then, hit the button so that, for them, it just easy peasy, just like Excel spreadsheets with all that kinda stuff. But,
Right.
um
So what brings you from him doing his thing, and then you finishing college? I'm guessing it was somewhere in the early 2000s. And then you also, I guess, followed somewhat in his footsteps with the finance things. But what brings you then, or I guess, give us like maybe a brief history of Pecos and
Yeah,
how you got to that place.
lunch.
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 Okay.
I think earlier I told you that I like Dallas and Fort Worth. Like,
Right.
Fort Worth will always be my soft spot. But you either love Fort Worth, hate Dallas, love Dallas, hate Fort Worth. It's just a fun rivalry.
Really?
Oh, it's just
I
a
didn't
fun,
realize
oh
that.
yeah, yeah, it's just a fun rivalry. We're both Dallas Cow. Every American should be a Dallas Cowboys fan. Not this.
By the way, I am.
Yeah,
I'm the only one in my family. I'll tell you quickly why.
yeah.
When we first moved here from Russia in like early mid '90s,
Oh yeah.
Astros love, Rockets winning championships love. the Oilers booked town,
Yep.
went to Tennessee. So all I saw on TV was 49ers, Cowboys, 49ers, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm rooting for the Texans." So I became a diehard Cowboys fan. My favorite player was Deion Sanders,
Oh, yeah.
and when he came from San Francisco to Dallas, I was like, "Game over,
Uh,
baby." That was my favorite. So I'm with
oh,
you.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Houston folks don't love me for that, but I'm a diehard Cowboys fan.
Oh, yeah. No, no. Well, every American should be. It is America's
Yeah,
true team. But
yeah.
Anyway, so I had just moved to Dallas and for a change. And next thing you know, he goes, "Hey, I want you to come to lunch." And your brother, this is the one that's in Alaska. He goes, "I want y'all to come to lunch with me." And we're like, "Okay." And he had just graduated himself, and so we're there. And he goes, "Hey," basically opened up his portfolio of oil and gas.
This is your dad.
My dad, yeah,
Okay,
at
okay.
lunch, and he still had an old school leather bound book. And for all the people out there that remember, it was like this big, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet wide, a foot long, and it's leather bound. And then you open it up, and then when you open up the pages, and then when you go to the top, it actually started at the top of that page and came down.
Ah, it rolls out
It
kinda.
rolled out,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so he goes, "This is what I've been doing oil and gas. This is where I'm at." He goes, "We can make a we can make a run at this." And he goes, and he goes, "We can be very successful."
To both brothers, or
Yeah, to me,
you and one of
me and my I've got 2 brothers, one's 2 years younger, the other one was still at you actually here in, Houston
okay,
at
so
the
just
time.
one of your brothers.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
and so he was like, "We can do this." So what we ended up starting to do is pick up, working interest over like, large portions of working interest in oil and gas wells,
Okay.
and that's actually the part that pays for the drilling of the well. So if you own the royalties underground, you're sitting pretty, all you pay is a tax, and that's it.
Right.
But the working interest is what comes out, does all the work, and pays for it. So we started taking 50% or more in any wells that we were doing. And next thing I know, I'm out in West Texas. Again, I'm already, I've already graduated. So I'm 25, 26. I crammed a 4-year degree into six. And I'm out there with an 18 and 19-year-olds just working. Obviously being from Fort Worth, you know people that are in the industry. So we were able to get some jobs, but we got grunt jobs and it was
Oh,
amazing. So we worked on the drilling rigs for a couple of years.
that's awesome,
The night shifts, oof,
man.
and then we did completions with EOG for a while also.
Okay.
And so we really got that good old fashioned hard knock. It's like we were talking earlier about degrees with our conversation.
Yes.
Well, mine's in organization development and behavior. So good luck about there's a lot in there,
Yeah.
but when you're slinging chain and slinging a sledgehammer, it's a little different.
Hard Knock University.
There you go. So anyway, so we did that, and then in 2017, I was able to finally like get back to the Fort Worth.
So at
Uh,
this point, are you kind of already, or you guys have established? So did Pecos, kind of like our company? Did you guys start as like a family business?
oh yeah,
That's
absolutely. Everything,
awesome.
everything, everything that we've done, we every now well, up until a couple of years ago was all our back
What
pocket.
inspired the name Pecos?
That actually comes from New Mexico of all places.
Really?
We all did Boy Scouts, and there was a great place out there called the Pecos Wilderness,
Okay.
and there's a mountain out there called Truchas, Mount Truchas.
Okay.
And it's like 14,500 feet, 14.5, give or take.
Hmm.
And you are borderline needing rappelling or rock climbing gear to get up to the peak.
Wow.
And my dad was 57, maybe, don't quote me, late 50s.
Hmm.
And we all got up this mountain
Hiking.
hiking.
Oh my.
We're talking backpacking, a week out in the mountains, backpacking,
Oh
all,
my
all that
goodness.
stuff.
Wow.
Because I asked him that, I go, "Why are we doing Pecos?" And he goes, "Because that was the hardest thing we ever did, and we got it done, and it was completed."
That's awesome.
And so that's actually where it comes from. So,
So
uh,
did you start like, so your position of, let's see, VP operations, like, I mean, in most cases, when I hear that, I'm like, that guy's doing a lot of the work. When I hear that title, is that how that was originally your title? Like, this what you're gonna
yes,
do?
originally, that was my title from day one, but it was more of a glory title in the beginning because I was out in West Texas working, learning.
Right.
And so I was basically doing third party work while all of our revenue all was still going back into projects. Okay,
Mhm.
we're just doing that over and over again.
Okay.
Anything that came in went right back out into the project. So that's why I said everything we've done is from our back pockets.
Hmm.
And then in 2017, we got back up in North Texas and we had one of our operators belly up on us.
Mm.
And we had no really plan to be an operator. And next thing you know, they bellied up, but it took about 6 to 8 months. and
Yeah.
we were still working with them, and then we had another one, and I felt bad for the second operator because, dad cut him no slack, and it was like, "You're out," like, all this stuff, and so by 2019, we're our own operator,
Okay.
and basically, as an operator, we maintain, develop the production for an exploration and production company,
Right.
and so that's what we have. We have our exploration and production company and then an operating company that then does all the work.
So you and I heard you mention that about 50 or more percent of the operators out are private operators.
Yes, over 50 per actually, it's over 50% of, operators in the oil and gas space in Texas are what are considered small operators.
Mhm.
Now, Pioneer, which obviously has just been bought by Exxon, but Pioneer is still considered a small independent.
Really?
Independents also, produce 50% of the oil in Texas, while the majors then produce that other 50%.
What would you say, like, obviously hearing you go through the grind and now, sounds like you're in a position where you guys, there's always challenges and trouble. I get it, trust
Yeah.
me, but sounds like, you're on the up and up. What kind of like leadership principles would you say guide your decision making in such like a high stakes industry where,
Right.
I mean, one wrong move here or there could send your family business as you started going in the wrong direction.
Knowledge and confidence, but also, I wish I could sit here and say that we have a family uh, code,
Mm-hmm.
but we really follow. I would say again, all three of us being Eagle Scouts, we follow that. Trustworthy. You got to be loyal. Friendly. I mean, and I know I'm not always the friendliest, but you got to be friendly and kind, and treat people with respect. And if you do that, you build relationships. And it's not about if you mess up a hole, it's like, hey, you did the best job that you can do,
Right.
because not every hole is a winner, and not every hole is a home run.
How would you say, like operational efficiency, how do you balance that with, regulatory, environmental compliance? I know there's a lot of that and maybe more in the last 4 years than, you know, in the next four, but how do you balance that whole scale?
Do your best to make a lot of good friends. No, no, it is so hard, especially as a small independent, because for an example, a good friend of mine, David Blackman, about 2 or 3 years ago, started helping out the oil and gas industry by talking about a lizard that the EPA was saying was endangered in West Texas and was threatening to shut down West Texas oil just because this lizard was there. So David Blackman, who if anybody out there definitely follow him, he's one of the energy experts out there.
Oh, we're
He,
naming names
oh,
today.
oh yeah, he's somebody that's very good,
Okay.
and he started writing articles and being pro oil, like, hey, this isn't it. But the other side of that coin too is if Pecos is out there in West Texas drilling a well and they say, hey, the lizard's there, I can't do anything. I can't fight the EPA. Exxon, on the other hand, is going to go out there. They're going to go hire 6 biologists, spend 3 to 6 months proving why it's safe, and then we get back to work.
Okay.
So,
So in that, because usually one of my good friends, Taylor, who runs Kibo Oil and Gas, was like, man, because, getting into this game a couple years ago, I'm just learning, I'm trying to be like a sponge, and he said, "Man, a lot of times it's the smaller operators, like in the Eagle Ford, that go out and drill these wells and figure out what's going on, and then the big dogs see, okay, there's some success there, now we'll come in." But what
yes.
you just said almost was the opposite way
No, no. What I just said was talking about in that scenario of the fact that Exxon has the capital
to
to
go and solve that
solve the
problem
problem,
first. Right, right, right.
while Pecos would be like, well, I guess we're not going to drill over there.
Right, just because
That's
you don't have the
right.
capital to go
But
for it.
yes, that's and that's not our model. Like your friends,
Mhm.
our model is if it's making money, we don't want to sell it.
Mm.
And but the wild days of the official wildcatters are gone. First of all, technology is just so there nowadays that even if
That
you're
term is
wildcatting,
almost, like,
it's a
obsolete.
fun.
Yeah.
No, it's a great work because you know what? If I go drill 2 miles away from where I'm at, I'm gonna feel like I'm wildcatting.
Okay.
But we like to hold on to what we got, and what the Exxons and Chevrons of the world will do, just like Exxon did with Pioneer,
Mhm.
is they'll let somebody prove an area up and then come in overpay and buy it, and then people make a lot of money.
Right.
I'd rather make a lot of money a lot of times. One time we were out at the lake and somebody goes, "Oh, you're in oil and gas?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "Well, why aren't we on your big 250 or 500,000 or $1 million boat that are over there?" I
Right,
go,
right.
said, "Because I'll take that $1 million, put it in the oil in a well, and I'll get that money back in 12 to 18 months, and I'll do that again."
and put and keep
Yeah,
yeah,
and do that again. I'm like,
yeah,
I love boats and I probably need to get another one, but, they're really fun, but,
mhm,
it's like, where do you wanna put your money, and,
yeah.
I love it when you see people also, they'll, like, say, "Hey, I just bought a truck for the tax write-off for 100," and I'm like, "Go put it in an oil well, and you get that money back, and you can do it again," but I need a tax deduction for a truck.
I think to me, like, the future is, in my opinion, is like media, AI, data, analytics. Like, what would you say? What type of new innovation or technology are you using or software in your business in
Right.
Pecos to help push your company forward?
Well, we're definitely looking at, what software is gonna help us be more streamlined, obviously, from a software paperwork standpoint.
Right.
Also, we're looking out for this AI, what's gonna happen with it. It's basically AI right now is something that's using a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people out there know this, but if you do a Google search and, and then you do the same exact search on ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
you actually use 10 times the amount of energy for the AI ChatGPT than you do the Google search.
Oh, so when my Siri asks me, "Would you like me to use ChatGPT or use the web?" I should tell her to save energy,
Right.
use the
So,
web.
yeah, exactly. So we got these data centers that are gonna be being built. How are we going to, power them? And that's where the liquid natural gas is really gonna come
That's the
make
future
play.
right there,
So you
LNG.
talk about you said media, AI technologies,
Data.
media data, and, media has to be better. We have to do a better job of putting out the word that oil and gas is great for the environment, that we're not doing anything wrong because, what we're doing is we're saving the rainforest. And what I mean by that, and a great example is the island of the Dominican Republic and Haiti.
Mhm,
Uh, in the 1950s, the Dominican Republic I'm not for nationalizing anything, but they nationalized natural gas
mhm,
for their heating stoves or for their stoves and their heaters.
okay.
Okay. Haiti did not. Haiti continued to burn wood as their number one energy source.
Mm.
Today, Dominican Republic is still a lush rainforest. Why? Last time I checked, everybody is leaving Haiti.
Oh, Haiti,
And if
yeah.
you look at it on a map, topographical map,
Mhm,
Dominican Republic is green and beautiful, while Haiti on the same island. And that's because they stopped using the trees to provide energy.
yeah,
So we have to do a better job because in places like Russia, Venezuela, there are no rules. There is no EPA or these regulations that we have to follow that are so strenuous to make sure that we're drilling safely, that when we're going through a water table, that we're double concreting that hole to make sure that nothing gets into it,
right.
that we're doing all these tests. And so, so media's got to make a to take a we have to do a better job of creating this of getting our story out there. I think media is a great spot, and I heard you use, midnight marketing for some of
Yeah.
yours these days.
Shout out, I like to shout them out, Tim and the crew there, always, they do such a great job in, working with myself and our team and then creating content and getting it out there to the public, and that's been something that's helped put us out in front of potential customers, clients,
Right.
operators that, are interested or have the opportunity or the interest to use new technology as our, drill bits at Cool Edge Bits, and, no, it's been great. I think it's super, super important, and I guess that's what we're doing here is we're
It
shouting out,
is.
the E&P operators in the oil and gas space, especially out in West Texas, but really everywhere in North America. Like the show, I like the show Landman. My wife and
Oh,
I
yeah.
watch quite a bit, and I think it was the first or second episode where he's like, "Well, the energy sector or the oil and gas industry is somewhere about, I think, like he said, sixth or something out of all the industry rank wise
Okay.
cap table or
Okay.
whatever market cap." He said, but the 5 that are in front of it would never exist if it wasn't for for oil and gas. So I love when he said that, man. That was pretty cool. How by the way, that show, if you ever watched it, how real or similar is it to actual like? Because 'cause you're out there all day, every day.
It's not.
Mhm.
It makes for great TV,
Uh-huh.
but
Love that guy Taylor, Sheridan, amazing. He does not miss. Yellowstone, Tulsa, King
Tulsa
yeah,
Kings, I'll
Tulsa
see
King,
yeah, that
Mayor of
got me.
Kingstown.
I haven't got into
The
that one, but
dude,
yeah, but Tulsa
Jersey
Kings
Ranger, check it
surprisingly
out.
I got into.
Yeah.
Um, he has great writers. Now, being part of a NAPE, North American Prospect Expo, and the American Association for Petroleum and Landman, AAPL,
Mhm.
they actually sent people in to talk and understand. So the writing, I think, is very good, kinda like you just said about that one scene where he said, we may be number 6, but the other 5 wouldn't exist without us. That's true.
Mhm.
The action in that movie is totally false. Oil and gas, our number one thing every day is safety.
Mm.
Safety is the number one thing.
Mhm.
And so to make a good TV show, you gotta have action, right?
Right.
And so that's why I say 90% of it is false.
Yeah.
We don't do those things. Hell, we're not even, alcohol on the sites anymore. I mean, we can't do that. We definitely don't have um, weapons on site. And I don't know how many landmen actually have to deal with the cartel on a daily basis.
Well, one of my what's crazy, yeah, no, you're right. One of my sales guys out in Midland was like, "Yeah, no," he's like, he was going, going from rig to rig, field sales. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just got drug tested. They just pulled us in, and whoever was out there, they just drug tested it like random." I'm like, "What the hell?"
They do that?
I don't know. I never heard of that, but they rounded everyone up, and I was
Check.
a little
I think so. I mean, because if you're on the pad site,
right,
I mean, again, it's safety first.
right,
And so if you're on a pad site, especially for some of y'all's customers that y'all have, you don't want to mess up.
no,
So, we do. I know that we do random drug tests.
mhm.
And I'm trying to think back in the day. I think I saw that happen one time too, where like there happened to be a salesperson out there was like, "Let's go," and they're like,
You
really?"
gotta
Yeah,
comply,
you got to
yeah.
comply.
So, okay, so you being it sounds like, obviously lots of experience so far in the industry. Like, what is some advice that you would give to like someone that's young, that's coming into the game? I know we talked earlier about like if you want to run a business, try to do every job in the business and learn everything. Like, what leadership advice would you give from your position if someone is starting out young and trying to accomplish and get to where you are, let's say?
Be patient, especially in oil and gas. Work hard, be patient, uh, and do everything and understand all that you can because the more you can learn in oil and gas, it helps out everybody. Again, it goes back to that message, it just helps everybody out. And in the days of being more like quiet, like my dad's generation, like where it's like, oh, I'm not going to tell this oil and gas company what we're doing, and those days are not gone. But we try to work together a little bit more days,
Holding the
especially.
IP tight to the chest.
Oh, no, we'll still do that. No, we're gonna keep those IP numbers still tied to the
Right,
chest, and
right.
there's we that's a whole other thing on why we all keep them IP'd, but no, we wanna just share our knowledge also, and, I definitely know I don't know near half of what my father knows, and I know there's other gentlemen out there that my dad would say the same thing, that are the same exact age, the same amount of time
Yeah.
that there's always going to be people out there and sit down and ask. And you've been asking great questions today, like when we were doing things. You're like, hey, what's the most efficient way to hold a gun or something? Like you ask something like, what can I do for this? And
Mhm.
I was like, man, you're just asking good questions. So that's something else I always want to tell the young. It's like no question's a bad question.
Yeah.
And so it's like just always be asking questions.
So, what would you say, um, some of the most valuable, like, and I've got another question to follow, which is maybe more interesting, but what are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned? Let's say, okay, so when did can we say safely, okay, this is the year that I started my career in oil and gas?
2011.
2011. So almost 15 years. So what are the most valuable lessons that you've learned in your career in 15 years, let's say?
Work hard, show up on time,
Mhm.
um, and in a way, say yes to the job because you'll learn it.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to say, I don't know, because that'll cost a life also in the oil and gas space. So
Okay.
be on time, show up, and if you can have a smile on your face, it'll throw everybody off. And I say have a smile on your face because you know what, you're up, you're working hard, and you're making the money. So why not have a smile?
I listen to this guy called Patrick Bet David, who's a successful fella. He's got this media platform called Valuetainment
Okay,
out of Florida, and really successful. Sold his m- business for like half a bill, and then started this. And he's interviewed Trump, everybody, but he's got some of this gear, hats, shirts, whatever. And one of them just says USA, and it says it's got American flag, and right here it just says the future looks bright.
there you
And he
go.
started selling it last year.
Okay.
And I would wear it in front of people, and they'd be looking at me crazy,
It's
like,
like why not be glass half full? I mean,
"Mm,
plus the way I always talk about it is I have a little confidence, I have a little swag, and it's like, yeah, I'm literally putting my money in the dirt. I
mm,
better have confidence that I'm gonna get it back.
right."
But also, hey, just be a glass half full guy. Years ago, I heard somebody, and it was an old snake oil salesman. He was like, "Oh man, this well might come on 1,000 barrels a day," like, and we're like, "Bro, what?" He goes, "Well, we don't know." And it's like, "No, you." really don't. Like, yeah, we kinda have a good idea of what it's gonna do,
Right, right.
but it's like, it could.
Speak it into existence, and I feel like if you pray every morning and every night and you put those good vibes and those good kind of thoughts and feelings and just and even words out like into the universe, that the good Lord has a way of hearing you and kind of guiding you and placing you in the if you work hard,
Oh, yeah.
you got a little talent, you got a little luck, right? And you just kind of try to follow, his will for your life. I think he can put you in some good places. So the follow-up question to that was
Amen.
amen. Shout out, you know who. But the follow-up question was maybe a more fun question. Are there any stories that you can share, like crazy, insane, whether something crazy happened out in the field or that you can share to be fair?
I would like to sit here and say that we've done a pretty good job and that we've learned a lot throughout this time, that the oil and gas industry from, 2000 and 4, 8 when the shell boom started,
Mhm.
it was definitely a different place. Safety has always been number one, but in the last 20 years, safety has really become more and more. And, that's just something that we need to, just make sure that really that we focus on,
Okay.
make sure that's a real safe place.
Okay. I just there's a good question here that I'm
Yeah.
I'm going over that I prepared for you.
I have no idea, by the way. Like, I have no idea how we're doing this. Like, I love it. All right, what's the next one?
What are your thoughts on carbon capture?
It's a great way to make money. If you
Mhm.
can figure it out and you can sell them, do it.
Okay.
I mean, that's the best. That's the best answer I can give you right now. Do I have a team that may or may not be looking into it? Absolutely.
Okay. How do you see federal and state regulations affecting oil and gas operations in Texas,
In
especially with
in
the
Tex
new incoming um, administration? I don't, obviously there's a big change
yeah.
there, but
In Texas, Vasili, specific, we're gonna be okay. That's why we focus here in Texas. Obviously, it's a pro oil, pro drilling state.
we're like our own
Uh,
little country, huh?
we really are, and
Yeah.
we're all blessed there. So we really aren't as worried. We do know that we, as a company, work with the Railroad Commission the best we can,
Mhm.
to say, hey guys, we're the smaller guys. How do we work with y'all and things like that to continue to produce?
Mhm.
But on a national level, that's what we're really more concerned about because as we want to expand into Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, where it's all federal land that we're drilling on, we need to make sure that the power of the pen, no matter who the president is, doesn't derail a project, that we can sit there, plan and develop and execute a 10-year plan, making sure that whoever is president is fine. So it's really going to be about key legislation. And one of the ones that we had to get done was the methane. We got rid of that ridiculous methane tax. So,
Yes,
so uh,
that was.
regulations are big. And also the fact that we don't have groups like the EPA going against us anymore, because that was weaponized against us. That's where that say no, the lizard came from. The EPA is the one that
Mhm.
put that out there. So we're very excited to see where we go with this.
What's the difference between, let's say, have you ever drilled on Indian territory or federal? Like, what's the difference there?
We have not. I do know families that have, and what a difference that is in the sense that, like in Texas, if you own the mineral rights, it might be one family. When it
Mm,
comes to an Indian reservation,
right.
everybody gets a piece. So instead of mailing one check, it could be thousands of checks.
Wow.
So yeah.
How would you say the Permian Basin has changed? Let's say I can't maybe it's not too fair to ask you like from 90s or whatever, but let's say from when you started to now. By the way, I love that place since I've been going there. It's
Yeah.
such a great
Oh yeah.
region in town of Midland, but how has it changed in your opinion?
The best thing I can say is seeing the some of the majors and also some of the other big independents investing back into the town.
Yeah.
In the 80s, well, not in the 80s, that's when after the 80s, when Gulf and everybody got out of there after that big crash, it left the town, they just suck it dry. The majors
Sure.
have always sucked that town dry. Nobody wants to live there. I always compare it to Bentonville, Arkansas. Have you ever
Mhm.
been to Bentonville,
Yeah.
Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walmart, Bentonville, Arkansas is like the best schools in the state. They want to make sure that they get the best employees. So they want to make sure that that city is the best.
Right.
And I think slowly you're seeing people like, I know Diamondback just got bought, but Diamondback, Endeavor used to do it. Um, uh, Double Eagle. It's like all these guys are putting back into the community now, and I think
Diamondbacks
that's big.
bought Double Eagle.
There it is. Yeah,
Right, right,
now
right, right,
right, yeah.
right. So, okay, so back to Pecos. So, what would you say separates um Pecos country operating apart from, let's say, the next similar size operator?
Family.
Mhm.
We do our best that we do a project and we put our money where our mouth is. So one thing that we noticed in the industry, and I meant to kind of talk about this earlier, is when we ask people to come be part of a project, we're only selling maybe 30% now because we want 50%.
Mhm.
Okay. I believe in where we're going to drill. Individuals out there that might go, hey, I've got a great drilling project. I'm selling 80% and the operator's going to keep 20. It's like, so do you not believe in what you're doing?
Right.
So you're going to make everybody else pay for it.
Mhm.
And it's like, that's not what we want to do. It's like, we believe in where we're at. Oil and gas has been around for 100 years. It's going to be around for another 100 years.
At least.
At least it truly is. Even on that whole what if scenario, we still need it for 100 years for the transition.
Then we might start drilling on the moon and Mars.
But my
Who
brother
knows what's
Ron
there?
always jokes, "We go drill on the moon,"
Hey, man.
and
So,
so
okay, that's interesting. So, how would you say, like, because we started as a family business at Coolidge Bits with my father and my uncle, and my dad's the greatest person. He's the smartest guy in the room a lot of times, but we butt heads a lot, and we're both very ambitious and try to be successful. But like, how have you found it working with dad, brothers, family?
I I thought you were describing my office just now. No,
So,
same thing. Yeah, same exact thing. You can't work for a better group because at the end of the day, I do believe the only people you can trust is your family. I'm old school when it comes to that, and so if you're going to be in the foxhole, you might as well be in there with them.
yeah,
And so
his
for
dad
us,
still with?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he still signs the checks.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
yeah, no, he's still there.
He's the big boss.
He's still the big boss, and so but, but again, it's so different than anything else. We're able to also put it away, which is something that's it's like, come 5 o'clock, it's something different.
Okay, so dad is still the guy, and are any of the women involved?
Oh, always. I mean, you can't if you've got the good support. My mom is amazing. She's supported my dad in anything and everything, and so
Okay.
she still comes. She'll do paperwork here and there and things like that, and so
So you have 2 brothers, married, you have nieces, nephews, big family or kinda average size?
technically, I guess from the stereotypical thing, I guess small.
Oh, okay.
I've got one son, and then one of my brothers has 2 daughters, and then, technically, my youngest brother has just one, like, stepdaughter, and
So you guys are originally like, you were born here, dad was born
San Antonio, yeah,
here,
yeah.
and then you go back to where?
On my mom's side, actually random question, on my mom's side, actually, on my mom's side, my grandpa is from Mexico,
Okay.
and then on my dad's side, his grandparents are from Mexico,
Okay, so you
and,
go back to Mexico
right,
at some
but, this was all Mexico at one time, so, but yeah,
right?
but
Remember,
yeah,
see how
oh, yeah, so, well, yeah, but I'm a Texan through and through, but yeah, the random question, yeah, no, but one of my great grandfather was, and then great grandparents from my dad's side were from Mexico.
Sweet. Well, man, I think it's been a great time trying to get to know you and get to know more about you and your business. Is there anything that you want to plug or that you want to add?
No, Vasili, I just wanna say I really appreciate this. This is literally, I went into this blind, right? Great questions, way better than I can do. That you set it up for me.
I
You
don't-
gotta come on my show, The
I
Crude
think you're
Truth.
gonna beat me.
No, I promise. But no, I mean, just anybody out there that has any questions about oil and gas, don't hesitate to to reach out. Or again, I mentioned people like David Blackman, Dr. Ed Ireland. Another great one is actually Nikki Morris, who's over at TCU. She was with Total for years. I mean, there's just so many people that are really out there that know the industry,
Okay.
and so yeah,
Where can we find what's your website?
oh, yeah. So I've got pecosoperating.com for our oil and gas company. And then
Okay.
I do a podcast called The Crude Truth, which has been so much fun. So we have a
Shout out,
website, yeah,
Crude Truth.
called thecrudetruth.com. I can't believe that was available 2 years ago, the crude truth.com.
Seriously,
Yeah,
you
that was
got
available.
away with that one.
Yeah, I can't believe it was available.
Yeah.
And, we do our best to put out one about once a week. There's no set schedule on it, but
Who do you for marketing, do you use anyone, in specific for marketing? Because we talked about how crucial that is, at least in our space, in the upstream kinda downhole tool space, or you guys kinda
at this time, I do a lot,
okay.
on that space. If there's posts or anything, I definitely do them.
Mhm.
We don't do too many videos. I think we were able to do one for Nape, and I had somebody
Mhm.
do that. But no, I mean, but Midnight Marketing is definitely doing some great things over there, with Tim.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he's been using a couple of other people on top of you are using him.
Oh, yeah. No,
But
they've got a couple of key clients in our space, and I think 1 or 2 other in another sector, but Tim, his wife, Bella, there's such a good crew. Rosie, that's our account manager. They're yeah, I recommend that group if you're interested in marketing, for your business.
yes, no, I know. I tell you what, I like how, yeah, it's a good group.
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and that'll be it for this episode. Thank you.